welcome today's presenter, a distinguished philatelist from Finland, Mr. Ari Muhonen, FRPSL. Mr. Ari is a FIP juror in postal history and literature. Ari Muhonen works as a library director at the University of Eastern Finland. He has a degree in naval architecture but has been working in university libraries since 1993. He is a postgraduate student at the University of Jyväskylä and is writing his thesis on postal conditions in Finland during the Civil War 1918. He is the Finnish delegate to the FIP Literature Commission and was its acting secretary in 2019 to 2022. He is the author of several philatelic books, including Finnish Postage Rates 1875-2001, which won a gold medal at the FIP exhibition in Bandung in 2017. Currently, Muhonen is responsible for the training of judges in Finland and is a director of AIZT board. His previous positions include President of the Philatelic Federation of Finland 2008 to 2014, SEPA Webmaster 2013 to 2020, and Director of SEPA Board 2017-2020. Now I request Mr. Ari Muhonen to take us to the presentation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Now I start sharing my screen. Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and greetings from Finland. We have something like 0 degrees here and some very nice snow weather at the moment. My talk, or the structure of my talk today, is that I first talk about the definition of philatelic literature, what it is about, and then some of my own thoughts about what is good philatelic literature. How do you write good books and articles and so on? Then just to let you know what the jurors do when they judge literature, I have to mention something about the FIP regulations, and then we know that we have some problems with the regulations, so I have a few words about that, how we could improve them, make them more consistent and more taking into account what literature is nowadays. I was introduced already, but this is just something which I wanted to mention myself. I am an active writer at the moment. I have written several books. I write several articles each year, and I have also done reviewing of books lately. So, first about the definition of philatelic literature. This is the definition what we have in the FIP regulations. So, philatelic literature exhibit can be any publication, any kind of publication that is related to any kind of research in the field of philately, but nowadays also about the documentation or education and the promotion of philately. This was added just 2 years ago, but I think it is very important to have this kind of literature, philatelic literature as well, and it is also important that we can allow them to be in the exhibitions, and we can comment on them, not just research. But then I have found when I've been judging literature that there are many kinds of exhibits which really cannot be judged as philatelic literature. There are books and journals who deal with non-philatelic subjects, but they use images of stamps or covers as just illustrations, just to get the feel of what the real subject is about. And then I have seen also research which is dealing with non-philatelic subjects. The stamps are source material, but it's not the main subject. There are kind of illustrations there as well. Then we have brochures of other kind of promotional material, which has no real stamp collecting content. They could be advertisements or that kind of things. And then sometimes it is hard to define what is a philatelic journal itself. There are journals or magazines which deal with philately, but most of the other material is about jewelry or watches or other kind of collectibles. And then electronic media or digital media is quite difficult to know if it is really philatelic or if it is allowed to be used as an exhibit, because the regulations say that the digital media has to be open for everybody. So if the media is behind the paywall or requires some kind of registration, then regulations say that it is not eligible for an exhibition, just like Instagram or Facebook pages or that kind of things. And just to give you some examples in here, the book here on the left is a dissertation from our military academy in Finland. The book was about equipping the British and German navies between the world wars. So how navy ships developed from the beginning of the 20th century until 1941, 42. And the book is about naval warfare in general, but it shows how the ships were described or illustrated in stamps. And that is something which we could not judge in one of our Finnish exhibitions, that there was nothing philatelic in the content really, except for the images of stamps. So that was something we couldn't do. Another example is this architectural chronicle of St. Petersburg. And it's a book about St. Petersburg, but it shows stamps as illustrations. So that also was impossible to judge. And two other examples from Finland, this Postimerkkien maailma, so the world of stamps magazine. It's a magazine which comes out 2-3 times a year, but it is all commercial. It just tells what kind of material this Lape company sells. There's no articles in there at all. So it's kind of promotional, but there's really nothing to judge. And then this keräilyuutiset, collecting news, is the type of magazine which gives articles of all kinds of collectibles, not just stamps. Of course, there is this very nice stamp of the ape from China, but there's just a few articles about stamps, and then most of it is something else. So that's the kind of limit where one can go if somebody wants to exhibit in literature class in an exhibition. So anything which deals with philately is not really eligible for an exhibit or an exhibition. But then the FIP regulations divide literature in 3 categories. There are the monographs and periodicals and digital media. And monographs are usually studies of a single subject. It can be a book, a special study handbook. It also can be a series of articles. So not just something, one subject or something you write in a book. It can be articles or something else as well. And then periodicals are publications that appear regularly. Usually they're magazines and journals, but also yearbooks. If it comes out once a year, then it's a periodical. In the current regulations, catalogs are also considered as periodicals if they are published every year or in certain intervals. But that is something which is not widely accepted now, so that may be changed in the future again. And then digital media. It is really hard to define what is digital media, what kind of websites or digital books or materials is really digital information, digital philately. It can be websites of all kinds, but also applications of software. And there's really a lot of difficulties trying to judge this type of material, as I will show you later on. Here are a few examples of catalogs. Facit is a Swedish catalog. It's kind of very classic catalog. And then catalogs can be also in digital form nowadays. Like an example of here is the Standard Gibbons stamp catalog. Digital media can also be a website which has a lot of research in it. This is a Hungarian website which deals with their classic philately, both stamps and cancellations. But digital media can also be a blog. So and a blog is a kind of running journal with articles in it, and sometimes it is hard to define if a blog is in an exhibition, what part of the blog is really kind of the active part and so on. So it has difficulties. I have difficulties in defining digital media when I judge it. But then I'd like to share my views about the characteristics of good philatelic literature. What is it all about? When I write my books or my articles, I start with thinking about the audience and the subject, to whom I will write my work. How much the readers will already know about the topic, and how much do I have to tell them the kind of the background, or how much do I have to define the vocabulary? How much can I assume that they understand already, so I don't say something which is really obvious for them already? I also have to think what language I use. Do I use just Finnish language, or do I have to include English in there? Maybe Swedish, because it's the other official language in Finland, or something else. And of course, that depends on whether I have only just a domestic audience or is it international. And then if I use the special vocabulary of my subject, the jargon, then I have to think how much they understand the special words, and how much do I have to explain that as well. And I think about this very much, because that's the base for all my writing. I have to know my audience, and I have to know what I have to tell them before I start writing anything. Then when I write, I have to make sure that the readers understand my message. So I have to think about my subject, what is important in there, what I want the readers to know, what are the key points in there, and my statements, and I have to make sure that the readers understand what I write. So I have to write in the introduction what is the purpose of the work, so they know what they will see in my book or my article. And of course, the structure of the work is really important. Table of contents is the key in there. Of course, I have to make sure that everything is logical, and if I write something, I have to kind of set the background first, and then write what I want to tell the people. And if I have done research, I think it is really important to write the results and then explain what I have found. I have to process and elaborate the material, the source material. So I don't want the readers to be left alone with the source data without any interpretations. Interpretations, I think, are really important in there. And when I use source material, I always quote the source. So if people are interested in reading more, they know where to go. And of course, they can also check my facts, what I have found, if they think that there is something strange or something interesting in there. And therefore, it is really important to make sure before I write that I understand what I am doing. If I write a book, which is a longer book, like 100 or a few hundred pages, it is also important to let people or to help people to find the information they need. They may not want to read everything in the book if they just want some certain facts in there. So having a good table of contents is important, and then when they read the pages of the book should show the chapter title on each page, so people know all the time where they are in the book. Appendices usually are very nice if there is some extra information which is not easy to put within the chapters, but it gives some kind of extra or excessive material to read. List of references is of course important to let people know what material I have myself used, but sometimes also extra reading, which can be important for the readers to know. And one or more indexes is really crucial, because that's the way how people can find the facts, the material they really want. And if it's a digital media, then using links is a good way to show people around, and then even give links to other materials, other places in the internet. And just to let you understand what I mean, then about text and vocabulary, I want to write really clear and concise language. So even though my subject may not be familiar with the reader, I want them to understand what I mean. And then I really put a lot of effort in finding the correct words and finding the correct sentences, so they understand what I mean. And my thoughts should be as clear as possible. if I use abbreviations, there should be a list of abbreviations in the beginning of the book. And as I mentioned, I always want to define all the terms I use, especially the jargon. Philatelic terms are not always easy to understand for somebody who is a beginner or hasn't read a lot of philatelic materials. So just to let you understand what I mean, I give an example. This is the book which I was the main author about Finnish poetry rates. I don't say it's the best book ever, but it gives the idea of how I have used my ideas when I wrote this book with my colleagues. So this is the table of contents of this book. The book covers about 125 years of Finnish postage rates, and it's about 400 pages long. So there has been a lot of changes in our postage rates. There are new types of items in there, new kind of fees and charges, and some of them has disappeared. So we have wanted to give people a good understanding what the rates are about, and it has really 6 chapters, and they are actually divided by the different issues Finnish Post has issued. So the first period is from 1875, since the start of the GPU or UPU, until 1918. And that is mainly because in Finland we had 2 currencies at that time. We used our own pennies and markas, but then we also used here kopecks and rubles. And it was really a strange period, because you could buy penny valued stamps with pennies or ruble or kopecks, or kopeck stamps with pennies or kopecks, and the rates were quite complicated at that time. And then in 1918 until 1962, we really had 2 or 3 big issues in Finland, and that is why we chose that period to chapter 3. And also in 1963, Finland reformed its currency. We took two zeros off, so 100 marks became 1 mark. So that is a very natural way of starting a new chapter. And in 1990, again, the state-owned post office was changed into a state-owned company, and that created a whole new period in our post office. They created a lot of new charges there and fees, and it was again quite complicated to find out the rates in general. For example, in 1995, we had 10 different postage rates for a postcard to abroad, because we had the first class and second class mail, and then we have different zones in the world. And showing that to the readers was not very easy. And then we end the book to 2001 when we changed from marka to euros. So that's a very natural ending to our book. We also show the airmail fees and some other fees like postage use, amusement tax, which we had in early 20th century and so on. So I wanted to have as logical structure to the book as possible. And also within the book, each page has a kind of color code. So different chapter has different colors there. So it is easy to find out where you are when you read the book. The purpose or goal of this book is stated that it covers the postage rates and fees used in Finland. And then it says that it has all the rates and fees which could be paid with stamps or postal stationeries and so on. And then we also define that the parcel rates are not included in here because we have another book for that, and it's actually really complicated subject in general. And we have this list of abbreviations in 2 languages, in Finnish and English. So if a reader sees an abbreviation somewhere in the book, he or she can come to the beginning of the book and see what's it all about. And all the rates are tabulated. So we have found the rates from the circulars of the Finnish Post Office, or in government decrees and many other places. And giving just the raw material wouldn't have been enough. And we tabulated them, so we saw what the rate is all about, but also we also give the reference where we have found the information. I think this is really crucial in a postage rates book. So if there is something dubious or something which the reader doesn't understand, he or she can go straight to the original source and see it for him or herself. All these circulars are nowadays on the internet. The Postal Museum of Finland has published them and placed them on the internet, so everybody can go and see what is going on and what has been written there. So this is something which I mean that I don't want to leave the reader alone. I have to process the information and make it as easy to use as possible. So the title of this slide, "Never Leave the Reader Alone," that's kind of my main idea whenever I write something. In our book, we have 2 indexes, one general index about the topics, and then another index for countries, because there's a lot of information about different countries and rates to different countries. And a reference list, that's also crucial, as I mentioned already. Another example is then a periodical, a journal called the Posthorn. It's a journal of the Scandinavian Collectors Club. And to me, journals, especially this kind of society or club journals, are really important because they have a special audience. They have the society members to whom they write. And I think a good journal has information to everybody, and also a very good journal has information not only to the club members, to the society or the philatelists in general. And I think that is something which is not really valued among the literature jurors. I will show that some examples of that later on. But a good journal, of course, it should tell what is it about. So it should show the title, the volume, the number, a good contents page, but also the information, the background information of the journal. Just like in here, in the Posthorn, it tells who the editor is, who's the contributing editor, website, copyright, and so on. But also important in general in publications is that they have either ISBN or ISSN number, so the general identification number, because that is the easiest way of finding material, books or journals or whatever, either in the internet or in library catalogs. In libraries, that is really crucial information. And in here again, the name and the issue and year is mentioned on the lower left corner. So once again, when the reader reads this journal, he or she always knows what he is reading or she is reading. And as I mentioned, a good society journal does not give just information about some general topics or some certain topics like Scandinavian philately, but also it is important to show what's going on in the club, and also the contact persons where people can visit the philatelists and so on. And it's always important to have this kind of material just to let people know where to find like-minded people, for example. Digital media in general is really, as I mentioned, it's really hard to define. There are some excellent websites with a lot of information about some certain topic, like this is just one example of the Great Britain Masons. And it really is a big site and covers kind of everything about that. But as I mentioned, the problem can be that something is hidden behind a paywall or registration. Like in here, it says login. So everybody can see the material in general, the information about the stamps. For example, in here, one example page. So the basic information is there, but if you want to have some special features or use some special features of the website, like the checklist and make some kind of notes yourself, then you have to register. And being a literature judge, if we need to log in somewhere and we are not given the passwords, for example, then we just cannot see everything, and it's very hard to judge this kind of material. Right. And now if you write a book or an article and then you want to put it to an exhibition, then it is good to know the regulations, how they are judged. And therefore, I give you some examples about the FIP regulation in here. The general principles of judging literature say that literature must be judged by its content. And I think that is really obvious, that if you want to know what the book or an article or a journal is about, then you have to go through it and read it carefully. So a judge has to be familiar with the content. And it says in here that even before the start of the exhibition, that is nowadays impossible. In FIP shows, it can be 100, 200 exhibits, literature exhibits there. And it is impossible to go through them all beforehand, because it's really expensive trying to mail the books and journals to the judges, or else get the judges together and spend several days just for reading and evaluating the items. Then literature exhibits differ from any other class exhibits, because if you have your own collection or an exhibit in the show and you get comments, you can change the text and you can change the items and improve your exhibit. But a literature exhibit is a publication, so usually you cannot improve it unless you make a new print, or for journals if the editor changes, there might be something new and different in there. But basically, it is the same item all the time. If you put it into an exhibition or several exhibitions, and the judges have to take that into account. They have to give advice, which is a kind of reference for future works. People can take that into account when they write new books or articles. And the third thing, which is not easy to arrange in exhibitions, is a kind of literature corner where the books and journals or the exhibits are publicly available, so the audience of an exhibition can go and check and read them. So literature class differs from all the other classes in an exhibition in that way. And then when jurors judge literature exhibits, there are, of course, these certain topics which they look at. And treatment of contents is the first one, and it's called as authorship. So that is something which deals with how good an author, how good writer an author is. And it's in FIP regulations, it is 40 points maximum. In APS regulations, it's actually 30 points, so it differs a little bit. But these are the topics which a judge should look at when judging a literature exhibit. About printed monographs and periodicals, it is how well the story is identified and told in general. So how good the author is in writing. We evaluate the style and clarity and skill in communication in general. But now comes the tricky part. If we have a printed monograph and then we have a digital version of it, we should judge really different topics there. So it's not just how well the story is identified and told. We also have to check the clarity of writing style, quality of illustrations, which is not really, to me, it's not really something which tells anything about the authorship in general. And then when we judge websites, it's once again different things in there. It's navigation, pagination. I don't understand how pagination really tells anything about authorship. And this is the reason I think we still have to elaborate the regulations. We actually should do a revolution, not an evolution in FIP regulations. We should start from scratch in a way and start doing things a different way. Originality, significance, depth of research, they are the philatelic aspects juror has to evaluate. And that's again 40 points in FIP, 50 points in APS regulations. And in here, printed and digital items are treated pretty much the same way. We have to think about the overall significance of the exhibit, the degree of original discoveries, research analysis, comprehensiveness, understanding the subject. And that's pretty logical if we are talking about research books. But it's very difficult to judge catalogs or journals with these criteria. And for websites, it's just creativity and breadth of scope covered. That's really nothing much. And what I have done and what we have done in the juries I've been in, we have used the same criteria as for these monographs and periodicals anyway, because it is the topic and how a person treats the topic. That's the main thing anyway. Then there are technical matters, which is the editorial aspect. So how the book or journal is constructed in a way, and that's 15 points, both in FIP and APS regulations. And these are really kind of technical criteria again. And to me, again, these are kind of the criteria which we can use for research books, but not that much to other types of philatelic literature. And then when you go to digital monographs and periodicals, we should judge the medium. What is, I mean, for example, USB, if it's USB drive, DVD, CD, or download from somewhere. And I don't know how I can judge whether it's in USB drive or DVD as a media or medium. That gives a lot of problems. And then for websites, we should judge the platform, PC, whether it's PC or Mac or iPad or phone. That really means that we should kind of judge how well the exhibit performs in different platforms. But it is kind of that the regulations are not really specific about that. And then presentation 5 points. It's about kind of what the item looks like and what is the feel, kind of how do you like the outfit in general about the item, visual appearance. That's just 5 points, and I think the regulations say that it should be 5 unless you have really something to mention that is not good in the appearance. So I hope these few slides gave you some kind of an impression what the literature judge really faces when he goes to an exhibition and starts to evaluate the exhibits. It's not an easy task, because usually you have 5 to 10 minutes per one exhibit, and you should look through all these criteria and make an impression for yourself what the item is about. And if you have placed your book or journal to different exhibitions, usually the result is they differ a little bit, because different juries check different criteria and has different amount of time to look at them. So some change there is inevitable. And then my final topic is how we should improve the FIP regulations. And in here I concentrate on the FIP regulations, because I think the APS regulations are far better than the FIP regulations. And I think that is because the core of the literature regulations, they still originate from 1985. Most of the text is still the same as 40 years ago. The regulations have been updated a few times, but the updates have mainly concerned digital media. And the current regulations, they were approved in Jakarta 2022, and there were kind of minor changes there. The major change was the guidelines for judging digital media. But as we all noticed or noted already 2 years ago, we weren't too successful with them. There's still a lot of problems with that. And one of the biggest problems there is that the regulations are mainly intended for the evaluation of books, for research books, and it doesn't help. The regulations don't help too much with the other types of literature, and that's something we should change. And the APS has done a lot of good work with this. And then when we check the results in general, literature exhibits tend to get lower results than exhibits in other classes. And the guidelines for digital media need to improve, as I mentioned. And then there are a few really kind of big problems. First is the time allocated for judging, then the language problem. Literature exhibits in international show can be any language. And usually not all languages are covered by the jurors, even though the literature jury should be put together in a way that there are as many languages covered as possible. And nowadays in international exhibitions, it is not even sure that you can identify the item. If the author or exhibitor writes in the application form the title only in English, even though the original title is some other language, it's sometimes really difficult to find out what the exhibit really is, especially afterwards when somebody just looks at the results list or the catalog of an exhibition. Here you can see the average results of 5 FIP exhibitions in 2022. Postal history and traditional classes, the average result or the average points per exhibit was between 86, 88 points. And then literature, it's 82 points. So it seems that literature jurors tend to kind of undervalue the exhibits. We should kind of calibrate our scores and appreciate the items, the exhibits more. And then if we check at the different types of literature, then research books are valued the best. They get the most large goals and gold medals. Catalogs, which are usually kind of professionally made, they are published by companies, and they give a lot of good information, but still an average catalog gets a large Fermet. And periodicals, journals, and club magazines, 30% of them get large silver, which is not really a good result if you compare to the other types of literature. So jurors should improve and rethink how they give the points and how they evaluate different types of literature. And if we check the different classes or different subjects of research books, postal history is valued the most. It has got 13 large goals. I mean, the books about postal history has got 13 large goals within 2017 to 22. Traditional also, but then all the other subjects they've got 2 or 1 or even no large goals at all. This is something about the time problem. Usually it's 4 to 8 minutes what we have for judging literature, just to give you an impression or an idea what judging is about again. And this is about the language and an identification of entries. We should have a new application form with a lot more information in it. So that could be printed into catalogs and also result lists. And then just a few ideas how we could improve the regulations. We should create generic regulations that take into account the technological evolution of literature. So we should not concentrate on the types of literature or the appearance of the exhibits, but we should find the core information in each and every exhibit and judge that instead of all the numerous different criteria we have at the moment. We should separate board digital literature from PDFs, because that's a whole different things. If a book or a journal is designed and then published the first time in electronic form, and maybe then afterwards a printed form, instead of an item which is published first in printed form and then changed into a PDF, which is a static form electronic or digital media. And we also already have solutions for taking into account different languages. We have this very nice translating programs and all that. We should use the technology a lot more in there. That was my topic in general. I hope I gave you some kind of an idea what philatelic literature is about, how to write good literature, and how difficult it really is to judge literature in exhibitions. If you want to know more, this APS Manual of Literature Judging and Exhibiting is an excellent book about that. David Beach has written a basic guide about philatelic research that can be found from the RPSL website. Two very good journals about philatelic literature is the Philatelic Exhibitor, which is about exhibiting in general, but literature is also included in there. And then the Philatelic Journalist, which is the journal of the AIJP. That's all about literature, philatelic literature in general. And then I want to mention my friend John M. Hodgner, who has written or made a compilation of his articles he has written in different journals, and that's about on philatelic writing and editing. If you find this book, I think it's really worth reading in general. So thank you for your attention, and if you have any comments, I'm glad to answer your questions and comments.
Sandeep, you are on mute.
All right, let's see.
Sorry about that, Ari. I was muted. Well, thank you very much for a fabulous presentation. I actually got to learn a few things as an editor, for the India Study Circle. Got some nice tips, but that once again I want to thank you. And we have a few questions, so I'll start in the order in which they have been received here, posted over here. So let's see. The first one is from Captain Vijay Wada. He writes, we were told, oh, I'm sorry, that's not a question. Okay, let's move along. Actually, there is a question from Captain Vijay Wada, and he writes, what is the fate of ebooks, handbooks in PDF format published on various formats? I'm referring to thematic topical subjects. How good or bad idea is it to write the books in this format where almost 100% illustrations are of stamps and postal articles?
Well, in general, if you write a handbook, it's a very good idea. But as I mentioned, you should kind of elaborate the material, not just show images of stamps or postal articles. You should go behind that and explain what it is all about, and tell the reader something which he or she doesn't see right away from the illustrations. So that's something which I would do.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next question is from Nand Kishore Agarwal. He writes, I write articles on current affairs regularly and use stamps every time to represent the topic. Does it come under philatelic literature?
Well, if these current affairs are about philately, then it is philatelic literature. So what I mean here is that if the text in an article is not philately, only the images, then it is it is impossible to judge in a philatelic exhibition.
Great. The next question is from Monchandran Nair. He writes, which are the languages acceptable in the international exhibition under literature class?
All languages. So it can be any language. And then it is judged by the jury, which is in there. Sometimes there is. I've had to judge the book which was in Chinese. I don't read Chinese, but what I did is I used these translator programs. So I got the understanding what the table of contents were, what the introduction said, and that kind of things. I didn't have too much time for that, but I got the idea what it was all about.
Okay. Well, I think that are all the questions we have. Any other questions, anybody? I guess not, but that again, Ari, I want to thank you once again. And I think Viren Sharma wants to present.
Thank you, Mr. Ari, for your insightful presentation. This is a small token from Philatelic Congress of India. It's a small token of appreciation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for inviting me.